Welcome to Curito Connects. I'm your host, Jenn, and I've been conversing with friends around the world about life challenges and impactful moments. Conversations on this platform look at answering the questions how we overcome challenges and how our experiences shape who we are and the work we do today. I hope this work can inspire you on your own personal and individual journey. Let's dive right in. Hello, my guest today is Erin O'Keefe, a White Plains, New York-based stylist specializing in magazine editorials and celebrity fashion, and most recently a proud co-owner of Ice Cream Social that she started with her childhood friend this summer. Hi, Erin, and big congratulations.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be speaking with you today.
I am also very excited because we haven't really talked to each other for a while now. So funny story, Erin and I met through our mutual friend, Ben Shum, back in 2015 when by chance of friendship, we all somehow ended up spending Oktoberfest in Munich. And you can imagine we had a great time dancing on tables, drinking our Radlers, and prosting the night away. We only met once more 3 years later at Ben's wedding in Hong Kong. I've loved scrolling through Erin's IG feed over the years since, she is a stylist and a fashionista after all. So I was very excited when she agreed to join Curito Connects today to converse with me about her recent career shift from styling to an ice cream shop. At the age of 40, with 2 kids at home in a field she knew nothing about and the challenges that came with it. So, Erin, without further ado, I pass the mic to you.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for that lovely intro. I am entering a new stage of my life, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about. And also just the idea of following your dreams, as trite as that sound, of just instead of thinking about something, actually doing it, that's been the craziest part of this process. I've been saying for many, many years, I would love to have a place of my own, and it'd be really cool to just have like one space that I could completely control the branding of, and the runnings of, and I've interviewed. It's interesting because my whole career has been in fashion, but every time I've gone to a restaurant or like a coffee shop or a dessert shop, I've always interviewed the owner. And it's always just been in the back of my mind to do something like this. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I was working in the fashion industry. I am a clothing stylist, and I would primarily work on photo shoots for magazines. And I would also do celebrity styling for red carpet events or appearances, and celebrity photo shoots for magazines as well, and a little commercial styling. And when I started, the industry was just about to go into transition. It was a really fun time for fashion, definitely. And I had a really great time, going to fashion parties and fashion week and dressing up. And that's when street style really took off, when places like The Cut and the Editorialist, really, really started, was right around the time that I got into the industry. And it was super fun to dress up every day. Since there was such an emphasis on street style, it's like every job you had really had to be planned out. Like every outfit I had really had to be styled out. And I really liked it. I was single and didn't have kids and had free time to do things like that. So it was great. And then mhm.
How did you get into it? Like after you graduated from college, was that always? Did you study design or fashion?
I majored in fashion design, and I first was in product development. So on the other end of the industry, and I would design accessories like for very mass market. And that was how I came to live in China. I worked out of the factories there and our office in Shanghai. And so I left that job, and I'd always been curious about stylists. I had worked for a designer. I'd had a few internships and worked for designers throughout college. And I thought, I wonder what styling is like, and it seemed pretty intimidating. But I knew that I was done with product development, so I literally just went on LinkedIn and Googled everyone and emailed tons of stylists and said I wanted to be their assistant, and then a few replied. And it was interesting because a few replied from different industries. So, there were many different kinds of stylists. One was the primary stylist on Top Chef. So I assisted her on that show. And working on a TV show is completely different than when I was assisting a magazine editor. All of those jobs and the way you go about them are completely different, oddly enough. I assisted someone else that was in the music industry, and she worked for a record label. So that was a whole different process. So yeah, I really just assisted, and then you meet like the photo assistants on set, and the hair and makeup assistants on set, and all the assistants like become friends, and then you do your own shoots. One of the stylists I worked with, she would let me borrow the clothes after she was done with them, because you have to borrow everything from designers, and then you have to return it in good condition. So it's kind of a big deal because you're borrowing a $5,000 coat, and you have to make sure you don't spill anything on it or rip it or whatever. Or the model doesn't do that. That's the most stressful thing. Like, you're not even in control of the garment all the time. So she would let me borrow things. So I built up my portfolio, and then it's the usual, just meeting people and reaching out to people, and making yourself Googleable so that people can reach out to you. That was a big thing. And I worked for a magazine for a few years, out while also doing styling on the side. So I was basically an independent contractor. I was a freelancer for the whole of my styling career, and I worked for different companies. So I worked at J. Crew a lot. I worked for this magazine a lot, and I would just do my own random, freelance styling gigs. And the magazine industry, as we know, was hurting. So all of the budgets just started to become slashed, and it styling for a magazine is not a great career choice because it's not lucrative at all. Now they went from having great budgets to having literally zero budgets, and you're putting a lot of your time and sweat equity into something, and then really not getting anything or much in return. So commercial styling is definitely a better way to have a sustainable career. I always think it's like like being an actor is being a stylist, because you're only as good as like your last job, and you're constantly going out looking for jobs, and it's very tiring. And so I realized that wasn't like a really great sustainable way to live. So a friend of mine who's a photographer, she became a Vine star, and started her own business. She started to create content for other businesses, and she and I had worked a lot together in the past. And she asked me to come on as art director for her company. So I did that for a while, and it was really nice to have stability. And this was also the same time I had my son, and after having a kid, like, to be honest, I just really wanted stability. With these shoots, I sometimes would be spending the night in the hotel room with the clothes because the like recording artist couldn't be there in time. Who knows what their schedule is, and shoots any day of the week, shoots at night, shoots in the morning. Especially for TV, I mean, you're definitely shooting. You could start at like 3 a.m. So I really liked that stability. I really liked the projects I was working on. And then we moved out of the city, and I wanted even more stability. I was sick of commuting. So I became the style director of a small accessories company in White Plains, where I live. They do a lot of supplying to Anthropology and like Free People and stuff. So I became their in-house stylist, and revamped the way they have their website and really help them with branding. They're a very small company. So it was nice to be able to get in and really just advise on their whole package. Uh, so when I had my son and I'm living in the suburbs, the I would skip all the fashion weeks and skip a lot of the parties, and I'm getting older and it just really wasn't as appealing to do those things anymore. I really I like stability. And so I really like picking up my son from school and being able to see him and not get home 10 minutes before he has to go to bed. So I was really content with this, like, little life, just styling in White Plains and having a consistent job. And when the pandemic hit, it was during my maternity leave, and I decided not to go back. I figured I had another child, and I wanted to stay home with the kids. My son wasn't going to school. My baby was just a few months old, so I didn't want to send her to school. And I decided to stay home. And during this time, I had, always had this idea percolating. There are like 5 businesses I want to open in White Plains, and
Which 5?
so this is our ice cream business. Next, we want to open a karaoke place. We want to have a coffee shop, a German beer garden, and possibly like a food truck giant area.
Wow, you're bring social to White Plains.
That's the idea. So, the karaoke place will be sing social, and the coffee will be coffee social, and yeah, that's the idea. And that's why the word social is in our name. We really are trying to bring people, communities, families together. So yeah, so there's an amazing space in White Plains, and it was a florist was there. It's in like this little cute house in White Plains. It's a building that I've always loved. It's unlike anything else. It originally started as a gas station, and then the florist moved in. During the pandemic, they left, and so we jumped on it, and we were able to get really good rent. And my friend and I had been talking about how there was no ice cream in White Plains, and we wanted to open a place, and just talking. And then once the spot opened up, we just started. So it really just kind of snowballed from there. I had left styling because I didn't want to be away from my family, and I was able to start this business at the same time.
Wow.
And so now I own an ice cream shop. So I have never worked in the food industry before. I was always more, retail or office jobs growing up. And I had to take a food safety course. I had to learn about everything. The tiling on the floor near sinks has to be a certain way. Like every single material has to be a certain way, especially in New York. The regulations are very, very strict, and the permitting is very, very strict. So now I'm on a first name basis with everyone at the building department and everyone who gives out permits, because I call them every day, and the county health department I speak to all the time. I'm also the kind of person who I'm like not patient at all. So I would call all the time and say, like, how's that application going and what's going on? And so I became very friendly with everyone.
So I just have to say, rewinding a little bit, that when you were describing your styling career, all I could think of was how similar it is to Sutton's character in The Bold Type, which I just
Oh,
finished
me too.
watching.
I just finished it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so when you were talking about that,
It
I was
is
like,
just
oh,
like
that's like
Sutton. Yeah.
Sutton. Like
It's
that's how.
really similar. Yeah. Like the the closet, like everything it's really, really accurate, at least from my experience. Yeah. I know. I love watching Sutton.
Yeah. When you were when you were saying all that in my head, I was like, oh, like everything she's saying
Yeah.
just sounds like what Sutton was doing, and what she was going through, and almost
Yeah.
in a way similar, right? Like where she was like career, but it's like, oh, but I also want to have like stability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. because it's a lot. Being a stylist is very physically taxing and it's very time consuming. The thing they don't show Sutton do a lot is lugging the clothes around. Like, it's literally like you're moving every single time you have a shoot. You go with suitcases and bags and giant trunks to every single photo shoot. And if you have a big budget, then the big fancy magazine like Vogue will pay for it. But if you are even, like Cosmo, who, I'm sure their budget's not that great, you were like lugging it yourself. So they should show her lugging clothing more. That stuff doesn't get in the closet just magically. Like, you really have to carry it all around.
Yeah, and is there like, do you carry in a luggage, or you're like pulling the trolley around? Like,
Yeah, like I have a suitcase that I can lay down in. So that's heavy, obvious. And if you have to fly for a shoot, like really, my suitcase is like this big. So yeah, you have trunks. They have like these big plastic trunks that you take everything in, luggage,
and you have to constantly
anything.
do like counting, right? Like quality
Mhm.
check on like, do I have the rings
Yep.
and the earrings and the shoes
Yeah.
and are they clean? And
Yep. And you have to make sure that like Dolce gets back all their stuff, and like their sock came with a little charm on it, so you have to make sure that like the charm goes back with the sock, and it's a really laborious job, to be honest. It's like not glamorous whatsoever, really. Like you're always on your hands and knees putting shoes on people. It's a really not glamorous job, I would say.
and for you personally, are you like pretty minimalist in terms of
Yeah,
in your
like
closet?
I hate shopping. Oh, well, in my closet, I do have a whole room of my house that's a closet. So I do every time I get rid of clothing, I get upset. I like regret it. So I'm not like a minimalist with that, unfortunately, because also I'll go thrifting. I have a big hat collection and I never wear hats, but they make a photo shoot. So I'll go thrifting and see something really weird and say, like, oh, I have to buy this and keep it. So I do have a lot of stuff. But like in my life, I'm minimal. I don't like a lot of clutter and a lot of craziness.
Right.
So
It's almost like that one room of stuff you have,
yes,
you can
yes.
start lending it out for shoots as well.
I know. I always think
Right?
that.
Like, it's like, you need some, quirky hat. I might have what you need.
Yeah, I do that with my friends all the time. But yeah, I need to start charging for it.
Yeah. That's fun. Sorry, I just had to point out the bold type comment there. But
I love
when
it.
we
Yeah,
talk
because
about
it's
that.
really it's totally accurate.
Well, I'm glad I saw that. And then when you were talking, it was just like light bulbs just went up in my head. I was like, oh yeah, it's like Sutton.
That's so funny.
So when we talk about your styling career, and now that you've completely gone 180 and shifted to being an entrepreneur and entering an industry you've never entered before, which is the F&B industry, did you find that you were kind of losing, like there was a sense of identity crisis in terms of, people obviously labeled and saw you as Erin the stylist living in New York City, Fashion Week, etc. And then suddenly you're like, well, I've graduated from that and now I'm moving into this whole other identity. So how would you reflect
Yeah.
upon that?
It's been a really interesting process. I was really labeled as the fashion one, and people would always ask me fashion questions and ask me about. They'd always be really interested in my job and what I did, and think it was very interesting. And so now I I don't have that as part of my life anymore, and styling is something I do really miss. My partner and I went to this restaurant depot where all of the restaurants shop. So everything is like huge and larger than life, and it's made to serve a lot of people. Obviously, all of the quantities that they sell there, And I saw a giant mountain of onions, and I thought, man, I really want to do a photo shoot there. And it's always in me, and that kind of artistic expression is something that will always be there, and I miss shooting dearly. So it's even my own identity. I can't just go to a grocery store and not want to have a photo shoot there. And I think that'll never go away. But to get back into styling would be a whole other, I'd have to shift my career again. All of my contacts are different, and um, everything about the industry is different now. So now I'm really trying to form my identity around being a small business owner and doing something for the community that I care so much about. And people do walk into the space and they say, "Oh, we can tell that you have some sort of creative background." It's not your run of the mill place. And obviously, branding is a big part of that. But it's something. My identity is something that I have to reconcile with myself and with other people as well. But it's a fun way to do it because I'm doing what I like.
Yeah,
Thankfully.
it's a fun process. And we didn't
Yeah.
touch upon your co-founder, which is your childhood friend. Uh, giving her a shout out too. So if you want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about going into business with your childhood friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So her name is Pam Geiger. And we went to high school together. We lived in New York City together. We were roommates. And we both moved back to our hometown. It's a really good hometown. So everyone that leaves comes back. And she also was doing this complete shift and having never worked in the food service industry before. And so she also has to learn along the way, along with me. She does events for a hospital. She does fundraising events. And so it's totally different. But obviously, with her event planning skills, she completely applies it to here. She's used to overseeing a large staff. So many things from her job really apply to our situation. And so her identity is shifting a little bit too. And she's a really great partner. She and I complement each other really, really well. Jobs that she doesn't like, I like. Jobs that I don't like, she likes. And so we're really able to kind of split up the workload and just make it all
That's
happen.
awesome.
Yeah, it's been a good partnership.
That's so great that with your different backgrounds, you guys complement each other so well. So let's transition into talking about the challenges of starting Ice Cream Social and what you guys had to encounter during this period of starting it.
We're totally different because we wanted to open a food service establishment. And so we literally started with a cement box. It wasn't insulated at all. It it didn't have anything. We needed to install 6 sinks, and I didn't know. I thought one sink sounds great. I didn't know anything about like a mop sink and a hand washing sink and a food prep sink and a dishwashing sink, and so we had to really rely on advice from others with what to do. We hired a great contractor that came was a recommendation from another small business in White Plains. And he has installed a lot of restaurants. So he actually was a really good advisory board. Like, you can't use this super slippery tile in the bathroom,
And you're like, but
I
it's
mean,
so pretty. I want those tiles.
exactly. Exactly. So he was really, great with that. My question was always we always joke because everything he tells us, I said, but can it be pink? And like most times it can be pink, but other times it can't. We had to install a new sign that said where the fire extinguisher was. And so I said, "Oh, cool! Can I design it and make it really cute?" And they're like, "No, it just has to be functional and red." And I was like, "But red's not on brand." And they're like, "It has to just tell strangers where the fire extinguisher is." I said, "Fine." So in terms of building out, I had to ask a lot of questions. One of the reasons I called the health department so many times was just to ask them, questions about how to install the space. There are rules with the colors that you can use, and everything has to be like all of the materials that you use have to be approved. They had to approve literally like the paint that we used, the tiles, again, the cabinets that we're using, the countertops, everything had to be approved by the health department. So I asked a lot of questions. And I also don't know anything about ice cream. I eat it all the time and I eat it every single day. So I know I like it, but I don't know anything about ice cream. I'm not even a foodie. I really could just eat pizza every single day and be like 100% thrilled. I don't care about food at all, unfortunately. I don't know anything about flavor combinations, or care. I like just have a sweet tooth. I'm just like pizza, donuts, ice cream, that's it. So it was interesting to try and learn about what the public might want. At first we thought like, oh, we're not going to serve sundaes because people will just get what they want. Like, we don't need to tell them flavor combinations. And it's been the biggest seller. People get sundaes all the time, and I've been so surprised because I have to think about other people's wants and needs. So when I was reaching out to a few ice cream places to supply it, because we don't make the ice cream there, and there was one from upstate New York that I really liked, and I reached out to them to see what their pricing was and how the whole thing worked. And the woman who owns the company was very helpful, and she gave advice from day one. She told us what kind of freezers to buy, what the temperature of the freezer should be. There are more sinks on the freezers that you have to put the ice cream scoops in. And so she's really been an advisory board the entire time. I still talk to her all the time and just ask her questions about like fudge and whipped cream and toppings, and should they be in the fridge? Should they be out of the fridge? And, like really just every single thing, the flow of the workspace. So I could not have opened this business with the minimal knowledge I had without this advisory board, without people really guiding me, and without asking the questions. I definitely, I'm a big question asker. Sometimes I feel like it's worse to ask questions because then you really have to follow the rules, and instead of just like doing it and then paying for it later. But I really had to ask a lot of questions and learn along the way. And there were days where I called my best friend and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. This is it. And the whole place is built out. But because we had this deadline, it just made it more, we had a lot of pressure, and the whole community. White Plains is a very big city, but it has a really small town vibe. Everyone knows each other. My parents grew up there. My grandmother came straight from Italy to White Plains. Like, we've been there a long time. We know a lot of people, and so everyone's asking, when is it opening? When's it opening? Oh, we're going to be open for the summer. What's going on? I'm like, I don't know, because it's not up to me. There's a lot of stuff with building permitting, and the build out. And we were told, one of the biggest hurdles was we were told that we needed to install a sprinkler system because we wanted to have more than 6 people indoors. And it didn't matter when it was a florist, but it matters now, as an ice cream shop. And that has been a huge hurdle. It's a huge monetary hurdle. But we also have to drill into the street, like shut the street down and drill into it and connect it with our space, install the pipes and everything, and get approval from our local White Plains department and the county health department. And so to have them communicate takes months. And are we going to be open by the summer? We kept pushing out our opening date. And so on those days, I just said, like, forget it. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. But then, you get up the next day and you just make calls and keep working at it. So there were definitely days where it wasn't cool, but for the most part, it's been the most fun thing that I've ever done. I've always wondered if I could do this, for many, many years. And now I know that I can.
Yeah, and you have 4 other ones coming too. For
Yeah, exactly. So this will be like super easy.
So more,
But yeah,
you said fun. So would you say more fun than any of the styling? I mean, I know it's different, but
yeah, I can't say that came from the door. But it's the same kind of fun. Like at my core, I like to create. So being on set and creating a picture, if it's for a magazine photo shoot where I have complete artistic control, but also collaborating with hair and makeup and the photographer, um, I those days, I mean, just flew by and just feel amazing because I'm creating something. And so with this, like every little thing that got installed and like paint that went up, you're just creating something. So I would say it was a similar feeling, really.
yeah, it's nice because you can, when you look back on it from both experiences, there you can pull out the foundation that really
Yeah, yeah,
fulfills you, right?
yeah. That's what it is at the core. And styling, it really helped propel me into this, especially with the branding. And just when you're styling for a photo shoot, you're thinking about every single thing, like how does the clothing look? How does the model look? Is her stance okay? Is her face okay? Are her feet okay? Like, is the buckle on the shoe? Like, there's so many different pieces that go into making that perfect picture that this really is the same thing. We really made a point to pay attention to detail, and that was the first thing the mayor said when he came to do our like ribbon cutting. He said, "Wow, you guys really thought about everything." And it really translates the same way, I think.
Yeah. Would you say that, I guess that would be your tip for others, right? Who are kind of maybe in that transitional phase of thinking of switching career tracks, or when they up, I guess it's mindset, like approaching,
Yeah,
whether it's a personal life situation or career wise, but just like applying that. It's like you can apply these kind of techniques or tools,
yeah,
practice or strategy to anything basically, as
a
long as
hundred
you
percent.
view it that way.
Yeah, 100%. And a friend of mine, this is like many steps removed advice, but a friend of mine, I guess she read a quote from Steve Jobs or read his book or something, and he was saying how yeah, he had studied, I think like typography and graphic design, and he doesn't do that as a career, but look how it came into play with forming his company. Because I was complaining one day many years ago, like, oh, I feel like I'm wasting time by doing this thing, or spending time on this, and she said, like, you really never know. You everything you do can be applied to the next thing. And
Right.
so I do really think about that a lot, that third hand advice.
Connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always said over the years I wanted to be a graphic designer. I think what graphic designers do is amazing. And I'm very 3D visual, but I'm not a 2D designer. I don't design on a computer. But now for the shop, I'm doing graphic design every single day. I really like honed my Photoshop and Illustrator skills doing this job. And so it's been really fun because I've always wanted to do graphic design. So now I have to do it.
It's almost also like when you turn the leaf at 40, it's like
Yeah.
you're continually learning new skill
Yeah.
sets that you've always wanted to apply and
Yeah.
learn, and you're kind of like ticking it off like as you go,
Yeah.
right? And so
It's
that
pretty
just makes
cool.
it very fun.
Yeah. And if I had just stayed styling, I might not have done that. Like now I know how to make coffee. I mean, I didn't know how to use a crazy espresso machine, and we sell espresso. And now I know all about that. I mean, not all about it, but some things. And yeah, it's having to open a physical business really just stretched my learning in so many different ways.
And so, of the next steps, what like which one's going to come next? Are you guys going to do Sing Social first, or
Well, I think it'll depend on the space. Whichever space opens up first will depend on that. But yeah, sing social is really what we want to do. But like the other day, I saw this space open up in White Plains, and it was super cute for a coffee shop. So I was like, oh, that's nice. But someone had already taken it, so so it didn't work. But yeah, it'll really dictate the space. But we want it to be in White Plains.
Yeah.
Our first week, someone called and said, "Do you want to open a second ice cream social?" And we were like, "Oh." So it was a developer. They had a space that in another city in our county that had opened up, but it didn't have the 6 sinks. So we were like, we're not doing that again. It was a big monetary strain, or not strain, but it took a lot of money to install everything into this little box. So the next space we have has to have some stuff there already.
Yeah. But the concept is great, and again, you never know. You never
Never know.
know. 5 years down the line, we'll listen to this podcast and be like, "Oh my God, can you believe now?" Now
I know.
now, right? So I think that's part of it. It's like you were open-mindedness, always learning, right? Go for it.
Yeah.
Ask questions. That's a big one
Yeah.
for you, right? But that's where you got your answers and was able to execute. So those are good pointers as well. So before we wrap up, I'm going to include all the links so people can follow Ice Cream Social, follow you on Instagram as well as Ice Cream Social, and we'll add some fun discounts there for anyone in White Plains who go visit, or people who want to buy fun merchandise on the website. Yeah. Well, did you have any I tend to like to ask for tips or 2 cents, or every time I say wise wisdom, people go, I don't know if I have any wisdom to share. And I'm like, well, you never know. It's like just tips, and suggestions, that you might have for those who are listening to this particular episode.
Yeah, I would say don't think of it as a whole. Just do a little piece at a time. If you think, I'm going to open an ice cream shop, and then you're like, I have no idea how to do that. What does that even mean? But if you just think, oh, I can sign a lease to a space, I can hire a contractor, I can find ice cream supplier, you just think about every single section as a little small piece, and you get over that one hurdle, and then you just move on to the next one.
Yeah. So really, anytime you hit that challenge point, or just something that you're stuck on, it's really just take it one step at a time, right? It's not like you will feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the days that I was super overwhelmed, then, you just still have to do the next step. So that's it. One step at a time.
And what's going to happen in the wintertime? Will you still be serving ice cream then, or?
We will, and we'll be selling soups. There's a really well-known, like Martha Stewart approved soup place in Westchester. So we're actually meeting with her today, and we'll sell her soups. And we'll have hot chocolate, of course. There's a great donut maker in White Plains, so we'll sell his donuts. There's an amazing bagel maker in White Plains. We'll sell bagels. One of our employees is a baker, so we'll sell her goods as well.
That's so fun. Very exciting. I hope when travel resumes,
yeah,
I can come visit.
That would be amazing. That would be so great. Yeah, we're a quick train ride from New York, so fly right in.
All right. Well, we'll do that. So thank you so much for your time today. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, have a good day. Thank you.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening to Curito Connects. For more Connects content, collaborations, and discoveries set to inspire you on your own individual journey, please head to our website at www.curito.co. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for joining us at Curito Connects.